Good morning. This is our Monday morning training. Today is Monday, January 15th, and we're going to be talking about a presentation today. We're going to be going through a presentation that I have been using now for, I would say, probably at least 14 or 15 years. Again, been in the final expense business now, going on 21 years this year. And like I said, done pretty well, know the business pretty well. And the presentation that I use, a lot of people don't think that a presentation matters. And I would have to disagree with that. I think that it's important to have a presentation and to have some sort of structure. We talk a lot about when we're in a home, and uh, sometimes clients, they like to talk a lot too, and sometimes they tend to interrupt us. And if we don't have a presentation, it's kind of hard to get back on point with things a lot of times. So I think it's good to have some sort of structure, something to work off of. And so we're going to be going through my presentation today. And if you want a copy of the presentation, if you would like the script, feel free to get on my website, adambrsan.com, and fill in an inquiry, or even shoot me an email, info@adambrsan.com. I'd be more than happy to shoot you over those materials. So let's go ahead and get started. So some things that I think about when we talk about a presentation, I think it's important to follow the client's lead. If you get in the house and your client, if they walk to the kitchen table, go ahead and sit down there. If they sit down on the couch, sit down there. I think it's good to keep the client in their comfort zone. A lot of times the client, they conduct a lot of business just sitting on the couch. So why would I want to ask them if we could sit at the kitchen table when more than likely they've probably conducted business in the past just sitting on the couch? So like I said, I like to keep the client in their comfort zone, and that's where they're comfortable conducting business. Now, oh, and feel free to stop me too. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comment box. Be more than happy to get to those as well. If you're visiting with a husband and wife, I mean, you've probably heard this one before. Be sure that they're sitting next to each other and that you aren't sitting in between them. It's kind of hard for the husband and wife to be able to communicate amongst one another if there's somebody that's right in between them. So yeah, make sure that the husband and wife are sitting next to each other. If you're sitting across from them, that's fine too. So like I mentioned, keep the client in their comfort zone. If the TV's on and it's loud, ask to turn the TV down. I don't think that you necessarily have to turn it off unless it's just totally distracting and they're not paying any attention to what you're doing. But just like I said at the beginning, I want to keep them in their comfort zone. They're used to conducting business, sitting on the couch, watching TV. So unless it's distracting to me, it's really not that distracting to them either. But like I said, if it's one thing, if it's too loud, I'm gonna maybe ask to turn it down. I'll grab the remote even and turn the volume down a little bit. But it's not distracting to me if it's not distracting to them. Don't ask to take your shoes off. I think that's kind of cheesy. Again, I like to do things maybe a little bit differently than other people out there. I just think that, for one thing, you are the one who wants to be in charge, and if anything, you want to ask the client or the prospect to start doing things for you, and I'll do that. I'll sit down. I'll ask them for a bottle of water or something. The more you can get to do for you can get them to do for you, well, then it's a lot easier when you have to ask them to go get their checkbook so you can get the account information and things like that. They're already used to doing some things for you. So like I said, and just stay in charge. The only time I'm going to take my shoes off in a house is maybe if I just stepped in some mud or something, or maybe maybe it's snowing out and my shoes are just totally full of snow. That's one thing. But on a regular day when it's nice out and I'm dressed nice and my shoes are clean. There's no point to take your shoes off. And save the rapport for the end. Uh, Again, like I said, I like to do things a little bit different. You're probably used to people telling you, well, but the first thing when you walk into a house, you got to be asking about the pictures on the wall. Oh, who's that? Is that your grandkids? Like, to me, the same thing. That's just kind of cheesy. It's like the same song and dance people are used to hearing over and over again. I think the best way to build rapport is by asking questions throughout the presentation and getting the client involved in what you're there to talk about. And to me, that's how this really hits home with the prospect. In my opinion, most people that we sit down with, they've been through this. They've been through a situation where a family member passed away, they weren't prepared, the whole family had to worry about pitching in to pay for it. So that's really why I'm there, and I want to get them back into that mindset of remembering why this is so important. And then bottom line, just get to the point. Get to the point. They know why you're there. They filled the card out. You don't need to be spending an hour getting to know them. Maybe it's a little bit different if you're selling over the phone because they can't see you. I feel like the trust maybe is a little bit less, and you really have to sell yourself even maybe a little bit more. So, but if you're face to face, just get to the point. Like I said, you're going to see going through the presentation today. You're going to see how I build that rapport just by asking those questions that really hit home with the prospect. And for future trainings too, check out, again, adambrsan.com. If you've yet to sign up, register. You'll get an email every week so you know what the coming week's topic is going to be. Every Monday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. I can't remember the last week I missed. We've been pretty consistent with this, and that's the plan for the year. So anyways, to the presentation. And like I mentioned, this script, if you want it, shoot me an email or get over to adambrsan.com and fill out that inquiry, and I'd be happy to get this to you. This is the script, and then the presentation is like in PDF format. I just use my iPad. I have the presentation saved like in the iBooks or Apple Books, whatever it's called. And I just go right in there and I scroll right through the presentation right on my iPad. Of course, not the script. You want to learn the script ahead of time. I think the best way to learn the script is to take it apart in pieces. You don't want to just start at the beginning and read through the whole thing and then and just keep doing that over and over. I've told some people in the past, I was actually in music. I played the sax and I also played the piano. Now the piano, my teacher always taught me. Now the method that I learned music was they called it the Suzuki method, where it was memorization, where we weren't just sitting there looking at the piece and just playing it over and over and over. We would take it apart in pieces and we would memorize it. And so like I would take the whole piece of music apart in sections and I would mark it like section A, B, C, D. And then I would just strictly focus on part A. And I would get that part accomplished and memorized. And then I would move on to part B. And then I would do the same thing. And then I would go back and I would play part A and play part B together. And then I would start working on part C. And then I would work on all three of those parts together until it got to the point where I had that whole piece of music memorized. That's kind of how I think it's good to memorize a sales script. Same thing. Don't just read through the whole thing over and over again. Take it apart in pieces. Learn part A first, then learn part B, then learn part C. Put it all together. It makes it a lot easier. And I think it's good too. The great thing about my trainings too is that I do have the audio podcast as well. You can go back and you can listen to this even when you're in the car, if you're out working. And I think that's the great thing to do. Just the more you can listen to the presentation, the better that you're going to get at it. So, but anyways, moving forward. So we sit down. I have the lead card in my hand, more than likely, or maybe it's a Facebook lead. So Mary, by sending this card back, have you experienced a funeral lately? Like I said, I want to get the client right back in that mindset of reminding them why this is so important. And to me, it's because more than likely they probably experienced something in their life at some point where a family member or friend had passed away. They weren't prepared, and the whole family had to worry about pitching in to pay for it. So that's the mindset I want to get them in. Have you experienced a funeral lately? And I think more than likely they're probably going to tell me yes. Yeah, I did experience a funeral. So, uh, well, I'm so sorry to hear that. I might ask if they were involved when it came to the money side of it, but was there insurance involved? You want to ask more questions. Was there insurance involved? Was it enough? Did the family have to pitch in? Well, I'm sure that got you thinking about this. So then you just want to tell them what you're there to do. I'll go over this with you, tell you a little bit about us. We'll go over a few questions, and I'll put together a few rates and see what you think. And then I go through who we are. My agency, Unity Life Group, is the name of our company. We go by the Family Legacy Plan. And what we are, we're a final expense organization that focuses on working with companies who have a good track record of paying claims and paying claims quickly. So what this means is that if you have a plan with us, when you die, your family will get the money fast. This is very important because most funeral homes want the money up front. So at least the money's going to be there for your family when they need it. So what am I doing? Right off the bat, I'm adding some value. I don't like to just sit down and talk about face amounts and rates. I want to add that value, and that's what we're doing right off the bat. More than likely, again, people fill these lead cards out all the time. They've heard the same song and dance over and over, and so many agents, all they focus on is the face amount and the rates. What's the most amount of coverage I can get that person at the cheapest price? And if that's all you're selling on, the next product that comes out that just beats everybody when it comes to rate, well, you're setting yourself up for replacements. So I like to sell based on value, and I'll be doing a training on that in a few weeks, on just the whole value proposition. But again, right away, I'm talking about the fact that we only work with companies that pay their claims quickly. And to me, that's showing the client that this is something that's going to do what they want it to do. It's going to pay their family when their family's going to need that money to cover their funeral. Who cares how much you have to pay for a premium if the money's not going to be there when the family needs it? It's not really serving its purpose. So then I get into how long we've been in business. Well, we've been around now since 2003, going on 21 years now. And, in 2021, I'll mention one of the companies we do business with. In 2021, one of our partner companies, they paid out over 13,000 claims, totaling over $141 million in death benefits. And, and I'll tell them, I like to go over that because I like my clients to have that confidence to know that they're only working with companies that aren't afraid to pay claims. So again, I'm kind of building off of that first slide and the whole value that I'm presenting. I'm solidifying it there. We only work with companies that are good about paying claims and paying them quickly. And here's an example. And then I'm going to mention too how we are able to help about 99% of the people that we meet with. So even people who have had trouble getting coverage in the past, there's a very good chance that we're still going to be able to help you. This is important because this is something everybody needs. Wouldn't you agree? So again, final expense. I mean, we're dealing with, middle to low income. We're also dealing with people who have trouble getting coverage anywhere else because they have a lot of pre-existing health conditions. The great thing about final expense is that you can have multiple health issues and still get that first day coverage. So like I said, not only am I solidifying that we're working with good, solid companies, but I'm also letting them know, even if you have some health issues, well, you've come to the right place. There's a good chance that we're going to be able to help you. And then they're agreeing with me that, yeah, this is important. This is something everybody needs. So then on to the next page, we're going to talk about Social Security. I'm sure you know how it works with Social Security. They pay the $255 sometimes if there's a surviving spouse or a dependent child who's in school. Now, if neither is the case, no one is getting anything. And that 255 really isn't going to do much anyways. I mean, the average funeral right now is ranging between about 4 and 12,000, with most falling around 11,000. And then the next closing question that I asked them, does that sound accurate to you? So the reason I asked that question, remember at the beginning, I remember at the beginning, I asked the person if they had experienced a funeral lately, and how I also mentioned how I don't really build a whole lot of rapport when I first walk in. So when I asked that question right off the bat, I mean, there's a chance that they might not open up to me yet. They might not be willing to share those sort of details. Maybe they had experienced a funeral that was just not that long ago. Maybe they just don't want to tell me about it yet. But what I found is that by kind of going through a few things, letting them know then why I'm there, kind of giving them a little bit of confidence with the fact that, like I mentioned, that we pay the claims quickly and we work with very good, solid companies. When I ask them, does that sound accurate to you? It's so funny. And I'm telling you, if you try this script, you're going to notice the same thing. People will come back. Maybe they told you no at the beginning, and then they come back now and they say, yeah, we had to bury our Uncle Joe about 6 months ago. I think it was like around 11,000. So yeah, you're right on. So right there, what am I doing? Well, I'm reminding them of about how much they recently had to help pay, or how much one of their family members or friends' funerals cost. But now they know in their mind about how much coverage minimum that they're going to need. And that's what I like to sell on. I like to sell on the value. I like to focus on the need. And then we also like to focus on affordability that we'll get to in a little bit here. So then I'm going to just kind of break it down. This is a breakdown of why funerals cost what they do. I always say I don't need to bore you with all this. Like you mentioned, your Uncle Joe had just passed away, so you know how all this works. But the two main expenses are the casket and the burial vault, which is the cement that goes in the ground before the casket. Now, the average cost of a casket right now is around 2,500, and that burial vault, I mean, that can run into the thousands. Uh, I might even mention the opening and the closing, how these cemeteries want $1,000 just to dig a hole and cover it up. So I'm going to go through all that a little bit there, um, and then I'll let them know, a lot of those expenses are eliminated when people decide that they want to be cremated. So then that's the next closing question. Have you thought about whether you want to be buried or cremated? Like I said, what are we doing? Well, we're focusing on the need. And that's really my end goal, I guess you could say, for that for that sale. I want to focus on today's need. I want to make sure that they have enough coverage where if they were to pass away tomorrow, that their funeral is going to be paid. I can always go back in a year, and I do it all the time. I can always go back in a year and I can add additional coverage. They might not have enough coverage when I leave that first day, that if they died in 20 years, that it's going to be enough to pay for everything. But I at least covered that immediate need. And the reason I strictly try to just focus on that immediate need is because I want to keep it affordable. I want to make sure it's affordable. I want to make sure that they can keep up with it, and we can always add more later. And I mean, there's lots of sales to be made on existing policyholders, but you got to keep up with them. If you don't keep up with your policyholders, someone else is going to. So let's move on here. So then this is a pre-arrangement planning guide that a lot of different insurance companies you can get something similar. This is actually one that's from American Amicable. So I'll order that right through their supply section, and I'll go through that with the client. But I know there's a bunch of different carriers that have something similar that you can get from them. And I mean, you don't even have to pay for something like this, but it does add a lot of value. So, and that's again another thing that I'm doing now. I'm going back to focusing on that value, not just the rates and the affordability and all that. We're going to focus on the value, and this is just another part of that. So one thing we've noticed, back to the script, is that there's so much more to when someone dies than just the money. And a lot of the time, the family is just kind of left clueless with not really knowing exactly how the person who had passed away would have wanted things done. That's why we are going to provide you with one of these pre-arrangement instruction guides. It's almost like an instruction manual that you can fill out. You can leave it to your loved ones so they know exactly how you want things done. And this is just going to make things so much easier on your family when the time comes. And they're really going to appreciate you doing this for them ahead of time. It could also prevent an argument when people are grieving, frustrated, and upset. And every time I go through this, I mean, they're shaking their head, yes, like they've been through this. And that's really what happens. A lot of times the kids don't want to talk to their parents about the fact that one day they're not going to be here. So I always tell them, it's great, with this, at least you take 10, 15 minutes one night, you fill it out. And all you have to do is just let your kids know, hey, mom, I filled this out. This is for you. Or, let the children know, sorry, that they fill this out for them and that it's going to be there for them when they need it. It's just all of the instructions of how they want everything done pertaining to their funeral. And if the kids don't want to talk about it, they don't have to talk about it anymore, but at least they have that in writing so they know how to fulfill their loved ones' wishes. So then I just kind of go through the first page here. The first page, it goes over your personal information, where you were born, where you worked, and other information that's useful for like your obituary. And I hate to say it too, but so many times people are forgotten about, where they find out 6 months later about a family member or friend passing away. And I might even give examples of like how when I was little, my grandpa, I remember hearing it all the time. Like my grandpa, he was in the Navy. I mean, he served in World War II. A lot of people that he served with, like he would find out months later of these people passing away, where he would have liked to have known at the time. So I'll usually bring that up, and they can relate. So, but at least with this, you can list those people in here, so your family will know to get in touch with them. And then those people will at least have the opportunity to decide how they want to handle the situation. They could come in town and attend the services, maybe send a card to the family. This part also goes over all of your funeral service information. If the church is involved, if you want maybe a favorite scripture read, or maybe you want like a favorite hymn sung, you can put that in here as well. And then the last part here just goes over important documents that you may have and where they're located. I think it's a good idea to put down any insurance policies that you may have with the policy number and the phone numbers. I sometimes wonder how many insurance policies go unclaimed because the family has trouble locating the policy and not knowing the company that it's with. At least by putting the information down here, your family will have easy access to that information. And then I will also include my name and phone number in here. So then your family will know that when that time comes that they need to get in touch with me right away. I'll make sure that we get that claim started quickly. And as soon as the claim is processed and approved, we can either overnight a check or we can deposit the money from the insurance right into your beneficiary's bank account. Now, we prefer sending the money to your family because there are more expenses involved than just the expenses at the funeral home. And sometimes we found that the funeral home will try and use up all the money if it's sent to them, unfortunately. So, yeah, I always tell people, have the family call me before anybody. And I'll let them know what to tell the funeral home, what not to tell the funeral home. But the main thing, we want to make sure we get that claim paid and that your family gets that money right away. So, and that's, here again. So your family's going to have that money right away to pay everybody without them having to dip into their pockets for any of this. And that's really the purpose of this. I mean, that's why most people contact us. They're looking out for their family and they don't want to put them into a tough situation. I'm sure that's what got you to fill that card out too, wasn't it? And same thing. Then they're shaking their head yes too, and almost to the point where they feel bad if they don't do anything. So now I'm going to kind of go over the highlights and the benefits of the plan that we're talking about. So everything we talked about, it's all done with permanent whole life protection. It's not a term policy. A lot of plans that you get in the mail are term policies where once you turn a certain age, your coverage stops. This is whole life, so you are covered forever. your benefits, they never decrease, and your premiums, they're never going to increase. Also important because some companies, they'll start you with a very low premium just to get you in, but then every few years their rates will go up, and it could get to the point where you just can't afford it anymore. So these rates, they're locked in. You never have to worry about them going up. And we can't cancel you due to your health or due to your age changing. Everything is just kind of based on your age and your health right now. And we try our best too to find you a plan where we can get you covered from the very first day. So there's no medical exam, so you don't have to worry about anyone coming back to take your blood or make you pee in a cup or anything. There's just a few health questions, and that's about it. And then that's when we get into the qualification. And the first thing that I ask, I mean, I don't really get into the health questions right away. I usually have my iPad open, and I'm usually like on like the notepad. I have like the Apple Pencil. So any whatever, if you got a piece of paper and a pen, whatever, just take notes. So would you say you're in pretty good health, Mary? And just take down notes. Well, we're dealing with a lot of seniors. A lot of seniors are, unfortunately, maybe they don't have a lot of people visiting with them. They're happy to talk to you, and they're happy to share that information with you. Well, at least I hope so. I hope you've done enough rapport building there just by asking some of those questions and getting them involved, that they're willing to share that information with you, or you're not going to be able to move forward with it. But yeah, I ask that. They tell me a lot before I even get to the health questions. Would you say you're in pretty good health? Yeah, well, I have high blood pressure. I got cholesterol. I take something for high cholesterol, diabetes, some pretty common things with a lot of the seniors that we meet with. Once they tell me a little bit about their health, the next thing I'm going to ask them, are you taking any medications? Write those medications down. And if they need to go get up and grab the medications for you, great. I usually ask them if they have like a list that they can give me, or if they could go grab the bottles. You don't want to miss anything. You don't want to just take down 2 meds and then you find out later that they were taking a whole lot more. It makes it tougher to get that business issued. And I mean, heck, you might try to place it with a company that you would not have even attempted to if you didn't have all of this information ahead of time. So be sure, write down the medications, what they're using them for. You can also you could get into the insurance toolkit. I use that a lot. I'd recommend getting that if you don't have it. And same thing, you can plug in the medications there, and it will give you the best options based on the person's health. So then at that point, you go through the meds. Then I'm going to go through and ask them all the health questions on the application. They already told me a lot about their health. I already kind of have a good idea of how those health questions are going to go, but you still need to ask them because they didn't tell you everything. There could be some stuff that was left out. Be sure to be thorough with that. Like I said, you don't want to try to write an app with one company, or try to even maybe you just write with one company. If you're writing with that one company, you don't want to give them maybe the best rate available, and then they come back and they don't qualify for that best rate. It's much harder to conserve after the fact. So figure it out beforehand, because when people have major health issues, you can make a big deal out of those sort of things. Oh, wow, you have congestive heart failure. I would imagine you've probably had trouble getting coverage. And even if they've never applied for insurance in the past, you're putting that doubt in their mind. And now they're thinking, wow, boy, this heart issue that I have, I guess it is an issue. So I sure hope this guy can help me. So, but anyways, the next thing after the qualification, we kind of figured out what company would be the best fit based on their age, based on their health. Next thing we want to ask, do you have any coverage now? Like I said, I like to primarily focus on the need of how much coverage I feel like they were to need if they were to die tomorrow. That could change here a little bit if they already have some coverage. Well, then I might shift that to, well, it's great that you have that, but what happens if you live another 20 years? I know you have 15,000 now, and that's great, but it's going to cost a lot more in 20 years to be buried. So, like I said, if they don't have coverage, I'll keep it at, let's focus on today's need. If they already have coverage, well, then we can shift that to, let's make sure that you have enough for years down the road. And then, like I said earlier, I can always go back and write the person coverage next year, even to cover the years down the road. But I mean, first and foremost, I just want to make sure that they can afford this. And if they can go a whole year paying into a lower premium, I'll be much more confident to write them a little bit more coverage next year. So then the next thing, oh, and when I ask them too, do you have coverage now? If they say no, that they don't have coverage, you want to make a big deal out of that. Make them feel like they're the last person in the world who doesn't have a policy. Wow, no wonder you contacted us then. This is important. And be just as expresses, excuse me, be as expressive as that. Uh, Show that you care. I hope you care. If you don't, at least make it seem like you do, because this is important. But next, we want to talk about affordability, because affordability is important too. You want this to be there for your family when they need it, and if you don't keep up with it, it's not going to be. So, what's another thing I'm doing right there? I'm bringing up the fact that this is something that's important that you want to make sure that you keep up with every month. And so I'm letting them know, this isn't just something that we're going to pay one month and not pay again. I mean, this is a commitment. We want to make sure that you can always keep up with this. So that's why affordability is so important. And then based on all of the information that they already provided to me, I'm going to take that into account, as well as how much coverage I feel like they're going to need. Uh, and then we're going to kind of go from there. And so let's just say the person is 65 years old. Their health is pretty good. They're just taking maybe like a blood pressure medication. They're taking like a cholesterol med. I mean, heck, 15,000 might not even cost a whole lot at that point. I like to, excuse me, I like to bring up, I like to go in like $10 a month increments. So let's just say I calculate what 15,000 is going to be in it, and it comes out to be like around $60 a month. I might figure out what 20,000 is going to be too. I might start a little bit higher because I can always work my way down. So next closing question. So let's just say I start at $70 to $80 a month. So to me, this is kind of like, I guess I would call it like a run on question. Like I'm asking a question, but then I'm asking another question before I give them a chance to respond to the first question, if that makes any sense to you. Uh, have you thought about affordability monthly? Is $70 to $80 a month affordable, or is that outrageous? So they're just going to answer yes or no. If they can afford $70 to $80 a month, well then I'm going to put together three quotes that are kind of right within that $70 to $80 a month. They told me that that's what they can afford. If they say $70 to $80 a month is just a little too much, it's just a little high, they just can't handle it with all the other bills they have, I might drop it down by $10. How about 60 to 70 a month? If they still tell me no, how about 50 to 60 a month? How about 40 to 50 a month? Sooner or later, they're going to tell me what they can afford. And that's where I'm going to put together three quotes that are within that $10 a month increment. And so the good thing about that, when I get to the end, then they can't tell me that everything sounds good, but they just can't afford it. They already told me what they can afford. And even if they tell me that all they can handle is $30 to $40 a month, at least they have something. Even if it's not going to be enough coverage to pay for everything. And I'll even explain that to the prospect. Well, having a little something is better than having nothing at all. And I'm sure that your family will appreciate that you at least uh, took the initiative to at least have at least a little something in place for them. And I'll come back next year. We can always increase it later, but at least you have a little bit something now. So that's good. So then I'm going to put the three quotes together. I'm going to present those three quotes. So let's just say I did 10,000, 12,500, and 15,000. So 10,000 is going to run you $51.60. And then at that point, if they don't say anything, then I'm going to write down the next quote that I put together. But if they say anything, any sort of buying signal, anything like that sounds good or whatever, that's it. I closed it. I'm not going to present another quote to them. If they say that sounds good, the next thing out of my mouth is, who's your beneficiary going to be? I'm going to write down their beneficiary. We're going to proceed into filling out the application, more than likely the e-app. If they don't say anything, well, then I'm going to show them what 12,500 is going to be. If they still don't say anything, well, then I'm going to show them what 15,000 is going to be. At that point, if I'm writing on a piece of paper, I'll rip that out. I'll put it in front of them, or on my iPad, I'll just flip the iPad around and I'll show it to them. And then I'll just simply say to them, I'll let you tell me what's affordable. And then it's kind of like the first one to talk loses. You just want to sit there. You want to be quiet. You don't want to say anything. You want to let them figure out what's affordable. And once they come up with their decision, they're going to give it to you. And, maybe every once in a while, they might even ask me, what's 20,000 going to be? So then I'll put that down. And then same thing. I'll let you tell me what's affordable. Just sit there and be quiet. You could talk yourself right out of a sale at this point if you just keep talking. So just sit there, be quiet. They're going to come up with their decision and they're going to give it to you. Once, like I said, and then once they give you their decision, if they say something like, I think the 15,000 sounds good, next thing out of your mouth, who's your beneficiary going to be? And from there, that means that you know that you close the sale, proceed with completing the application. The next thing I usually ask them is, what's your middle initial? Once you got the beneficiary's name and then you ask them what their middle initial is, they know what you're doing. They know that you're filling out an application. So when they say the 15,000, I think that would be affordable. Don't say, so do you want to go with the 15,000 then? Because what did you just do? You just gave them another chance to think about it. So no, when they say, I think the 15,000 sounds good, next thing out of your mouth, who's your beneficiary going to be? And then we move forward from there. And then we want to get to the bank draft. Now, I think a lot of times agents will over explain the process. And these days, most people's bills are automatic. Most of our clients, they have other bills that are being paid that way. So they understand how it works. And honestly, these days, it's more convenient than ever to have your client set up on a bank draft. They're always set up to coincide with the Social Security dates. Lots of the different companies we work with are set up that way, where, I'm sure you're probably familiar with this, but with Social Security, there's different pay dates. There's the first, there's the third, there's the second, third, and fourth Wednesday of the month. So we can set that payment we need to set that payment to coincide with their Social Security pay date. If you're talking to somebody and they're on Social Security and they get paid on the third, but they tell you, well, why don't you just wait and do it like on the 5th or the 6th of every month? Don't buy into that. Let them know that that's not an option. We have to set it up for when you receive your Social Security. Because if you give your client a few extra days, there's a real good chance that that money's not going to be there when we want to draft that premium. So don't give your clients that option. Let them know we have to set this up to coincide with your Social Security, and let them know that it's very accurate, where even if you get paid on the Friday prior to the weekend, because I know that's how it works with Social Security. If the third falls on a Saturday, you're going to get that money on the second. So we can set this the same way. And the same day you get your Social Security, this is always going to be paid. And then just one other tip for you on that. If you say this is on a bank draft, what's a good date? And the client tells you, well, go ahead and draft it on the 15th of each month. I kind of like it right in the middle of the month. The next thing you should probably ask them is, now, do you want it paid on the 15th because you get paid on the second Wednesday of each month? Because that's more than likely what they're thinking. I get paid on the second Wednesday, and that usually falls right in the middle of the month. They're probably going to tell you, yes, that they get paid on the second Wednesday of each month. So let them know, well, we can actually set this for the second Wednesday, because the second Wednesday, again, that date is going to vary, but at least that way you know this is always going to be paid on the same day that you're receiving your deposit each month. And I'm telling you, boy, the client, they appreciate that too. They like having it set up that way. And ever since these companies have gotten better and better at this Social Security billing, I would say my persistency has gotten a heck of a lot better too. You set it for that date, nothing to worry about. The money's going to be there before they can run to the bank and pull out all their money. At least you know this is going to be paid every month. And then the next thing, let's talk about referrals. So we got everything done. We filled out the whole app. They qualify. At this point, now the way I ask for referrals, I kind of look at it as I just did something to help them with something that they need, and now they like me. And so a lot of times I just feel like they're more willing to help me if they know that by them helping me, I'm going to get something out of it. And that doesn't mean like them just giving me clients to make sales, but just kind of the way that I word it to them. You might wonder how I get paid. First thing I'm doing here, I'm going to solidify the sale. Well, I get paid two ways. One, most importantly, by meeting with you today, I do get paid a commission based on you keeping this policy in force. So please be serious about your decision today. And I know you are. I know that you're doing this for a reason, and you want this to be there for your family when they need it. Now, second way I get paid by you giving me 5 names of people that might be interested in what we talked about today. I'm not just talking about 5 people that will buy insurance, but 5 people that you think may be interested in what we talked about. And then I'll just put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on my notepad, and same thing. I'll hand them a pen, and I'll let them just start writing names down. You got to remember, referrals are going to make up for people that slam the door in your face. We're not going to write every single lead that we get, but referrals is what's going to make up for that. And referrals are free leads. So if you're all excited when you leave a house, and I've been there, you make a sale, you're all excited. And so many times you get so excited about the fact that you just made that sale that you forgot to ask for referrals. And you're walking away from a lot of money if you're not asking for referrals. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about that next week. My training next week is going to be just talking about just different ways of writing business outside of just working leads. Leads is like the name of the game. That's kind of what gets us out there, but there's other ways to generate business outside of just working leads. So that's what we're going to be talking about next week. So then, another thing I wanted to bring up too is you got to make sure to be explaining to the client how the modified death benefit works. And so sometimes I think agents, they explain that part a little bit too early. Like I've met with people where I get in the house and like the first thing the person tells me is, well, I don't want to do any business with you if I'm not going to be covered right away, or if there's going to be like a 2-year waiting period. And so a lot of times people might bring that up too early. I don't bring this up until like after the fact. I'm still bringing it up. They can still tell me, no, never mind, I don't want it now. But I bring it up after the fact. Like I said, if anything, I'm going to make a big deal about their health while I'm there. I'm going to make a big deal about the fact, like I said, like that they have like congestive heart failure, or heck, even diabetes, or diabetes with neuropathy. Wow, I would imagine you've probably had trouble getting coverage. Wow. But again, putting a little bit of doubt sometimes makes it a little bit easier for them to move forward once you let them know that you can help them. So I get to this after I quoted them, after the application is filled out and completed. Now, Mary, because of your congestive heart failure, like I said, boy, I bet you had a lot of trouble getting coverage. Well, I'm just happy that we're able to take it. Now, the company, they do want you to live a couple years. So what that means is that if something were to happen to you within the first couple of years, due to natural causes, your beneficiary, they're going to get back every penny that you gave us plus 10% interest. So better than any kind of risky stock, or if it was just sitting in a savings account. But the good news is that you're not going to lose a dime by funding this policy, and you're going to live 2 years anyways. And just by kind of having that assumptive approach, the positive approach to it, uh, ever since I've started doing it this way, I don't think I've had one person come back and tell me, oh, so this does have a 2 year waiting period. Well, never mind that. I don't want to do it. Uh, I think a lot of it just has to do with how you explain it and when you explain it. So it's not like you're walking out and you never told the person about a 2 year waiting period. I think that that's lousy. I think you need to be explaining it. I think a lot of it just has to do with when you explain it. And if you explain it too early, well, you're more than likely going to walk out without a sale. So all you got to do is explain it. It doesn't matter when. You explained it while you were there. They're happy that you were able to get them covered. You could even let them know that if they were to die in an accident, that they are covered with it immediately. So then check out my agency as well. I know I have a lot of people on the call that maybe are not part of our group, and that's fine. You know, we throw our trainings out there every week for everybody just to kind of help everybody in the industry get better. But if you're looking for more help or more support, check us out, Unity Life Group, unitylifegroup.com/careers. And you can get on there and fill out an inquiry. In-home sales, telesales platforms available. We do have a lead program where you're never going to run out of people to see. We do offer lead financings for those that kind of fit the niche or qualify for something like that we're looking to do. So what that means is that you don't have to worry about paying up front for the leads, which helps you to be able to get that consistent flow of leads going. And I know a lot of agents need that when they're looking for new opportunities. Maybe they're not successful where they're currently at, and they just don't have a lot of money to put into leads. So if I talk to someone and I feel like they have the motivation and the drive and they could really do well with this, and the only thing holding them back is money for leads, I don't have a problem financing them and putting some leads in their hands. And they make a sale, half of it's going to come out of their commission, other half's going to go straight into their bank account within, I'd say maybe 1 or 2 sales is going to be enough to clear that lead balance every week. And then the agent would see those full commissions. So let me know if that's something you're interested in too. Be happy to kind of get into further detail with anyone who wants to reach out about that. We have very high level contracts available. So for those that are looking to build a team, or maybe you already have a team, but you're just kind of looking to take advantage of some other things that we can do, I think we have room there to be able to bring on even groups of agents and small agencies. So feel free, like I said, reach out to me. Be more than happy to get into a little bit further detail of what we're looking to do here. Agent engagement within our agency, I would say, is stronger than most. We do our weekly trainings. We have every day, actually, I work with Chris Smith. He's on our calls, on our trainings most Mondays. Chris has a morning call that our agents are invited to attend. Goes for a half hour on what is it? It's like well, I'm Central Time. It's 8 a.m. Central. It's 9 a.m. Eastern every single morning, where you can pick up a lot of good ideas. It's a great way to kind of get your day started. Just kind of, it's like a motivational sort of call, and it's a call that can help agents pick up different ideas and, like I said, just kind of get motivated. And then, like I mentioned, we do have our audio podcast that you can listen to in the car while you're out working, which I think is helpful, as well as many other things. I mean, we have a group that a lot of our agents are part of where we share our production with one another. And same thing, we can share different tips, different ideas on there. People that are working with us, they feel like they're a part of something. They don't feel like they're left out in the cold all alone. We really do try our best to help agents, and we want agents to have a long lasting, successful career. So like I said, feel free to reach out for that. Additional training too, you can go to my website, adambrsan.com, and then also the YouTube channel. And even for those of you who are not watching on the Facebook group, the insurance, life, and everything in between Facebook group page, every Sunday night, we replay the prior week's training. So like this coming Sunday, if you want to go back and watch this training, it will be on the insurance, life, and everything in between Facebook group page. If you are not on there, search for it on Facebook and request an invite. We would be happy to include you on there. And same thing, go to Apple or Spotify, whatever you listen to your podcast on, search for Insurance Life and everything in between. Follow us on the podcast. If you've listened to the podcast and you like it and you want to maybe give us a good rating, even provide maybe a little bit of feedback, all of that is greatly appreciated. We're definitely looking to build and grow and help as many agents out there. And in our podcast too, we don't just talk about life insurance. We talk about, the day-to-day life and everything else. So yeah, feel free to check that out. We just loaded our 30th episode, and we try to load about 3 to 4 every single week. I know this week I'm going to have at least 3 or 4 more to be putting on there. So all for you guys is to kind of help you guys. So thanks again. Appreciate all of you. I hope you all have a great week. Don't hesitate to reach out to me if you need anything, and good luck out there. And I'll see you next Monday, same time, same place. Thanks again.